Hello and welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast, the Royal Navy's only pro wrestling pod. Probably. I am, of course, Dits, and I am joined once again by my co-host, Anthony, all the way from the States. How you doing, buddy?
Extremely excited to be here, as I always am, and I'm even more excited than normal because we've got a little bit of a quiz on this episode. We've got another guest on this episode. We're making this two-person ship a tripod ship right now, adding another member to the crew. I don't know any other real Navy or nautical terms, so my ship jargon is going to fall short here, but I'm excited. I'm very excited for this episode.
I genuinely nearly said gangbang then, and I was like, hang on, that's not right.
Nope, that's not.
I guess that could be a Navy thing.
You know,
I guess
maybe.
It could. I guess people view it like that. Me, I don't take offense to that, even though I'm in the Navy.
Fair. I'm not going to judge. I'm not in the Navy, so, you know, whatever. It could be a term. It might not. We'll let the people decide.
Yeah, let's just let this thing be a virtual gangbang. And to be a huge part of that, let's welcome Fowl to the show. How you doing, buddy?
I'm really well. I just had to hold my laughter for the whole of that thing. Did you just say that we're a tripod?
Yep, I definitely did.
'Cause thank you very much for that compliment.
You know, I call it like I see it. I'm a straight shooter and real recognition. It is what it is.
I mean, I'm the only person in this whole chat that they can see in video. Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite exposed.
There.
We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have.
Everybody signed the blood oath.
And this on the blood oath. Cool beans. I'll send it over to you. How do you need that? FedEx.
I'll carry
FedEx,
a pigeon.
right?
Pigeon.
Yeah, carry a pigeon. I'll send it via Geordie Racer. Oh, look at that shit. I mean, oh, sorry. Look at that stuff. I brought it back full circle. We've literally spent, like 40 minutes talking about Geordie Racer before this started.
At least.
So for all of you out there, Geordie Racer.
Everyone's like,
There's
huh?
one thing. Yeah, right.
And Biker Grove. There's Biker Groves, there's Geordie Races, there's fucking everything going on here. But today,
Yes.
we're not talking about Biker Grove or Geordie Racer for this episode. We are
crap,
talking about
all my
AEW.
notes are
Damn it.
useless. All my
Everyone's
notes are
gutted. I've literally just let down our entire fan base with that sentence. However, we will redeem. We obviously Double or Nothing is actually when this goes out, Double or Nothing has already happened because this obviously goes out on a Sunday. We're recording on a Friday, so to us, Double or Nothing is on tomorrow. So it seems like a good time to do a 1-year retrospective, going from Double or Nothing last year up to this current point. We like to keep things relevant on this show.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to talk about Biker Grove.
Obviously.
They're making a comeback, of course.
Damn right they are.
There must be. Again, and I'll say it again, I'll say it one more time, yeah. If Pac is listening to this,
He is.
then
He is.
obviously. What I want to say to you, Pac, is I liked your turn in Biker Grove. I thought you did really, really well. And I just want to know, why did you have to leave the show? I mean, you didn't have to. You could have stayed there. You could have gone on to like Brookside straight after, yeah. There was like a whole journey for you, and you got into wrestling. Thank you.
He did that. He died so we could live. What a sacrifice.
I know.
Good old Pikachu.
Just like Seth Rollins. Pikachu. I love that as well, yeah. I love the Pikachu thing. Can we get Pikachu going, like, as a thing? Can we just start calling him Pikachu from now on?
I've been calling him Pikachu for at least 10 months because I legit don't know how to say his name. Pac, Pick, and I just went, you know what, fuck it, he's Pikachu.
It's true. He
That's
could
what
be
I'm going with.
a pick packet. Pick.
Got
Pick.
to
I'm
pick a
going to
packet
sit
or two.
here. Oh, you've got to pick a packet per... Oh, you've got to pick... No, wait. You've got to pick a peak or two. Oh, you've got to pick a Pikachu. Da, 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 da. You got to pick a Pikachu. That's actually really cool. I'm stealing that. Stolen.
Take it. Have it.
It's your show. It's your show, actually. You keep it. You guys have it. Don't worry about it. I'll let you have it.
So before we start recording, I gave the disclaimer to both Fowl and Anthony that it was going to be a podcast featuring Dits this week because, as you know, if you listen to the show on the regular, you know I'm not fully invested into AEW, although I have caught ever since we did the
You're
AEW
getting there,
for
though.
Dummies. Yes, exactly.
I was gonna say, don't, you know, put yourself short there. You have started to get into it. You've got a good head on your shoulders. You've come into it with a proper mind, and you haven't been. And we've talked about it. Like, it's tough to be I don't mean this disparagingly or negative at all. Like when you've only seen WWE or that's your main thing, when you've been indoctrinated into wrestling via the WWE model, when you see other forms like New Japan or Ring of Honor that may lack the pageantry of WWE, or AEW that is a different dynamic in terms of how the matches go, how the characters are built, everything. It's not an easy thing to digest right away and unpack, pun intended. And you've done well in like legitimately making an effort, and I think you're on the right track, and you don't have to accept it. If you thought it was terrible, that's completely fine, but I like where your head's at, and don't sell yourself short. You're making a good effort, and I'm proud of you as a person.
Thank you so much.
So, but behind your back I say terrible things, but to your face I'll compliment
That's
you.
what everybody does.
Of course.
Oh my god, it sounds like this three-way is on.
Hashtag Dow Bang Bang.
That is.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I have to say, it's like with AEW, the one thing about AEW is that you can, if you take it for what it is, which is a form of entertainment, you'll have a good time. Like you will, but if you go into it with preconceived notions that wrestling should be a particular way, or you can only like it if it's a particular style, you will have a little bit of a hard time with it, only because of the different things that you're exposed to in that show. I mean, obviously, when we're going to be talking about it, there's a point in AEW when Michael Nakazawa was running around rubbing baby oil all over himself in the first match of every event. Yep. Now, if you're a brand new, if you're a brand new person and then it's like, cool, watch the buy-in, for Fyter Fest. Let's watch the buy-in. Oh, what's this Michael Nakazawa guy? Oh, he's going to go against this Jabali guy. Or why has he got baby oil on himself? Why?
This?
And he's having a match against Kenny Omega and he's putting baby oil on himself. Like, there's logic, there's wrestling logic, like you'll know if you watch the matches, and it makes sense. But to anyone watching it from an outside perspective, you're like, you watch this stuff and it's the buffet, isn't it? It's like what Cody says, it's the buffet of wrestling. So there should always be hopefully something for everyone.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah, it's a tough thing, and I've noticed it from certain perspectives. Like I grew up watching WCW and WWF, and then when I turned to WWE, and then ECW when I could, and then I really got into TNA and Ring of Honor by extension, and then New Japan, and so I'm used to watching. I just like wrestling. I like certain brands more than others, and I will die on the hill that New Japan is the best wrestling promotion in the world. But that being said, I enjoy wrestling from just the perspective of wrestling. But friends like in real life, not that this isn't real life, but I've got friends that like can't, and they mean it not in a negative way at all, but like they couldn't get into Ring of Honor because they're used to the show opens and pyro goes off and you have a ramp and a Titantron, and like Ring of Honor doesn't have that. And it's like the wrestling's cool, but like I just can't get behind it because of how it's presented. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that's really kicked and stayed with me for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And then that was one of the things really when Dits started getting into AEW, we did like he watched his first episode of AEW, and then we talked about it several months ago, and then we did the AEW for Dummies episode a couple weeks ago, and that's been like a recurring theme of like it's not to like overstate it, but it's a legitimate thing when you're used to how like wrestling or anything is like presented in one way. When you see it in another medium or in another fashion, it's very easy to be like, nah, like this isn't for me, or this is weird, I don't understand it. But sometimes it takes effort to give it a chance and try and give it an understanding. And I hope enough people are able to do that with AEW, because I think if you're if you are a wrestling fan, you'll be able to find something in it that you can enjoy week in and week out. And
to that point, like I do feel that it is a little bit of effort for me to sit and watch it. But having said that, because Fowl, you'll know, obviously we get unless you've got Fight TV and the like, we don't get Dynamite until Friday on ITV4 of all channels. So I don't get to watch Dynamite until Saturday. So I'm a week behind because I don't watch it until like tomorrow morning. But I've started watching that ahead of...
To be fair, that's because you got to catch up with Minder before anything else. Like, come on.
Naturally. But I've started watching that ahead of SmackDown now. SmackDown does nothing for me at the moment. So I've watched in that time. I have like a small slot in the morning on a Saturday before the kids the kids are like waking up at this point, so I can get away with watching anything. And then the moment they hit that mode, it's just like, right, kids' TV's on. I can't do anything about it anymore. Just I need to shut them up. Peppa Pig, you're on. But up until that point, it's either a case of, do I watch SmackDown? That was on the night before, or do I watch something else? And now I found myself watching AEW Dynamite, so I'm getting there. And I find it a lot more interesting. SmackDown hasn't been interesting to me for a very, very, very long time, so I'm happy to put that on the back burner. In fact, I mean,
obviously we're recording now, and SmackDown's airing right now. Like
there you
that's.
Go.
No, but you know what? That's the kind of level at which I'm with that as well. Like, I would rather wait until the next morning and kind of watch it. Like, what I tend to do is I'm awake sometimes for, like, the Twitter stuff happening, and I'll be like, ooh, that looks fun. There's a GIF. There's a fun GIF. Oh, Goldberg's here. Amazing. Like, oh, Cena's here. I don't know why. Like, these kind of things happen. And I'm like, that's interesting. I'll watch that tomorrow and maybe make a hilarious edit about it. Like, that's about it. Like, I don't see it as the go-home show anymore as well. Like, you know, like it used to be. It feels like the kind of, oh, shit show. Because it's like, used to be go home, and now it's just like, oh shit, the event's like tomorrow. Oh shit, the event's on like Sunday. Oh shit, we haven't got enough matches. Like, that's what SmackDown has become. It's the now oh shit show. So I'm just like, well, might as well wait till Saturday until they actually announce all the matches. And SmackDown just falls by the wayside. But here in the UK, as you said, Dits, on ITV1, which is really interesting, and it's something that AEW kind of tried to do, but it hasn't really stuck, is on ITV1. So ITV4 is like kind of buried down the schedule, but on ITV1, which is the Fox or the CBS, they show a cut version of Dynamite on a Monday night, starting at about midnight or quarter to 12, just in the run-up to Raw. So if you really wanted to, you could sit and watch the cut version of Dynamite. It's not that cut. Like, I watched one the other night, you know, when Britt Baker got her face exploded. And that was all there. And I remember going, oh my God, what's going on here? Because it comes on a little bit later. But it's just, AEW over here has just always had a bit of a weird Fight have been, and like I go around speaking about Fight all the time, but Fight have been the best thing for AEW. If it wasn't for Fight, we would not have seen AEW. I don't think we would have, because ITV would have quickly like fluttered it away and we wouldn't have seen anything. It's really lucky that we get a chance to kind of live out the Wednesday Night Wars to a certain extent here in the UK. Like, it's nice.
And we don't really get much over here, so I feel blessed.
Exactly.
But yeah, obviously we're going to be doing a 1 year's retrospective. That really isn't actually a 1 year when you really think about it, seeing as Dynamite didn't start until October.
Yeah, but if you count it from, I mean, especially with how impactful Double or Nothing was last year, I think it's fair to do that kind of 1 year retrospective almost to the day.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk for the next 45 minutes about AEW. Like, there is no set way we're going to do this. We're just going to fire off about anything AEW related over the last year. And then we have the quiz with Fowl as well at the end, which is going to be nice. The pressure of the quiz.
Oh, man.
I mean, I am already palpitating. To be honest, that's because I had about 5 Red Bulls before I started the show, so that's probably that. But
Ant and I last week, like, we were as nervous as A&T was. We were just like, shit, like, I'm only reading out questions. Like, there's no pressure on me whatsoever. Or there shouldn't be pressure on me.
I felt less pressure when you and I were competing against each other doing the quiz. I felt less pressure then than I did when I was asking the questions and hosting it, because I wanted to do such a good job to make sure, like, I gave the questions right and I gave them in enough time and spoke them clearly to make sure, like, A&T could understand them. I wanted to give them, like, a fair chance. Like, yeah, I felt like as soon as it was like 3, 2, 1, go, I was like, oh my God, the lights are on. This is so much pressure.
You know, the worst part is, the worst part of putting together a quiz in any way, shape or form is you put together the questions, and then if you give them to someone and the answer, like, so I did a quiz and I've recorded it with someone, and these will come out at some point, and my quiz wasn't as organized as I know your guys will be. So mine was a bit like, I got lost in the questions. So I got to a certain point where I was like, oh shit, did I ask that question already? So I made a question up on the spot, which was great, but the answer to the question could have been 2 answers. So I was there going, well, I guess you're right. That's not the answer I wanted, though. Let's just move on. Fowl's Prince-like vault of bullshit that I've got saved, yeah, that when I die it will all come out, yeah. That's in there. That's in the Prince vault. Like, it's not a good place. Anyway.
Everyone has duds in the archive. It's all good. One day they'll see the light of day. We definitely have a dud in the safe, but I don't think that's ever going to rear its ugly head.
We do.
We do.
Oh,
It's not good.
Oh no! Talking about duds, I've got well, it's not a dud. It's I can never release, and it's just something which, at the time, it was absolutely fine to have the conversation that we did. It's nothing like as bad as you all think, yeah, but it was perfectly fine to have a particular conversation about a particular individual, like very freely. Unfortunately, that individual then passed away. So the same light and fun that we had, it's probably not going to be taken in the same way with the individual that I spoke with, who was notorious for an event with said person. So yeah, that whole interview is just kind of because yeah, can't laugh.
Can't see it.
But you can listen to that. It's, at your own pleasure.
I do every day.
Every day. When you sat by your piano, you play like a little nice dramatic piece.
Beethoven's
Moonlit Sonata. Moonlit Sonata. My remix of my
So yeah, AEW.
Yeah, of course, Moonlit Sonata, AEW.
AEW, of course, yes. I'm the king of segues. You know this.
That was so smooth. That was so goddamn smooth.
He practices it. He tries to make it seem like it's nonchalant, but he's an artist. He is an artist.
That was great. I only got like the 5-volt electric shot this time. Like, that was beautiful.
I'm the gift that keeps giving. I really am. So I want to kind of talk about what I obviously caveat to anything I have to say on this episode. Caveat from what I have seen of AEW over the last year. To me, I think the tag team division is the standout. Would you agree?
I'd say so.
So
yeah, I would
I'd say that is a pretty damn good starting point to kick this thing off. So as a tag division as a whole, how do you think that is done over the last year? I open the floor.
Don't open the floor. I'm going to fall down.
Yeah, you gotta keep it. I was gonna say the same thing. I was like, you gotta keep it all one piece, otherwise we're all gonna fall.
That's why we can't play hopscotch. That's why we can't play hopscotch, Dits. That's why we can't play hopscotch. I would say for like the tag team division, from my point of view, yeah, like I've been a really big fan of the Bucks. Like I wrote a whole thing like from back 2016. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It's like a love letter to the Bucks, and they don't want it yet. Like they don't even return my mail anymore. So like anymore.
Yeah, right. Like because they used to.
Obviously, I mean, I used to get stuff from like. Well, I'm assuming it was them, cease and desist letters all the time. So when I first became aware of the Elite, being the Elite, and all the fun stuff they were doing in 2016, like I was a really big fan of it, and I was a fan of the whole of their story of the Young Bucks being 2 brothers who didn't want to, be separated, and they wanted to be a tag team. I think that the way that AEW was initially presented as well was supposed to be kind of a way for tag teams to get a shot, to be at the forefront. I mean, if you go the whole way back to All In, the main event is a tag team match. Yep. It's not a singles. It's not what people would have expected to be potentially like Cody versus Nick Aldis for the NWA Championship. No, it wasn't a straight up tag team match, but it was a tag team match main eventing that whole show. The respect that's afforded to tag teams within AEW, I haven't really seen that in many of the promotions. I mean, the only promotions I could maybe think of, and it's not a promotion, it would be SmackDown. SmackDown used to do really good stuff with tag teams, and I still think they do, but it's not the focus of the show. Like, it's not the end of the show. And I think with AEW of more than any other place is that they've shown that good tag teams can draw. Like, they can. Like, you just have to give them a chance to be themselves and get over with the audience. And of the tag teams that are in AEW, like say like TH2, like Hybrid Theory 2, they have seen some stuff like this past week on Dynamite. They kind of, and like Dark and like the Road 2, and they're kind of trying to bring them back into it. But if you watch a tag team match in AEW, you are guaranteed a good match. Like, all of the tag team matches, like, yeah, there might be like 1,000 Canadian destroyers in it because Dustin Rhodes involved, but like, it's still some of the strongest stuff on the card. And I've been really excited, and this is my big example. I've been so excited with Kenny Omega and Adam Hangman Page's tag team storyline. Yep. It's a tag team storyline, which is ripped into everything else going on with the Elite. And having like Kenny and Matt Hardy teaming up, that's a tag team that doesn't make sense on paper, but they're so good. Like, they're such a good team, and you could see them going for, and you know, I don't think they look at it as a step down. They look at it as bringing the division up. And the only other people, and I'll leave it on this, the only other people that I've seen try to do that was Daniel Bryan on SmackDown, when he was like, I'm going to bring the tag team titles up, I'm going to make them mean something, and then went out and had some stupid matches on the pre-shows, and it didn't mean anything. But at least he tried.
He tried. I echo those sentiments completely. I think and there's a bit of nostalgia in it for me, like, growing up and renting the tapes and then seeing stuff live of like the Legion of Doom and the Steiners, and then I also loved groups, and I loved the Four Horsemen, and then you had the NWO and like DX, and I loved stables, and I loved tag teams, and there was such prominent tag team wrestling for me growing up. And yeah, much of that same point, when I remember seeing the Bucks in TNA when they were Generation Me, and they were, you know what they were, and they didn't like what they were. And then coming back around and seeing them in New Japan and Ring of Honor, I loved what they did for tag team wrestling. I know the reputation that they get as spot monkeys, but I've seen them put on just such great matches in Ring of Honor and New Japan that have told stories that have been technical. Even just Matt selling the back injury for like a year and a half, and them winning matches with sharpshooters and like focusing on parts of the body for their opponents, and their rise from like the junior weight class to the heavyweights to like all of it. And it's put excitement into wrestling and into tag team wrestling, and to everything, Fowl, to your point there, like, yeah, the story and the meaning behind everything is what really gets me. Like, I had hoped to see that again when AEW was founded. You obviously knew like the Bucks were a part of it. And so my first thought was like, okay, like, they have been a great tag team for a very long time. Tag team wrestling has to receive some sort of prominence in this company. And then their matches with the Lucha Brothers, who, again, like how Kenny and Hangman are together and are the tag team champions, but they're both very, very good singles wrestlers. Page is on the way up. Kenny, obviously, at one point over the past several years, was arguably the best, if not one of like just the top 3 wrestlers in the world at one point. But Penta and Phoenix are both really good wrestlers individually, and then put together, they're a great tag team. And Trent and Chucky are good. The Jurassic Express are good. Private Party has done really good. Like, even Scorpio Sky has come out and been tremendous with SCU. Like, there's something to behold in every single group, except for the Dark Order. I still think they suck. But other than that, yeah.
I do agree. I
like the direction and the concept, but the in-ring aspect has not gotten me yet. But I'll give them. I still hold out hope. But the division as a whole, again, there is not a tag team match that, even if you think it's a terrible match, I guarantee there's at least one spot that made you go like, oh man, or it made you sit up, or it made you take pause or take hold. And I loved what they did with Kenny. I love how the storyline of him kind of everybody thought he was going to be the ace coming into everything, and then he lost and he fell and he kept losing. Then he wins the tag titles, but then like the Bucks are supposed to be the team that win the tag titles, but now it's like this makeshift team, and then Paige has all this drama with everyone, but he's in the group, but he kind of like doesn't want to be in the group, and now he's like also drinking, but it's funny, but it's also kind of not. And then they put on this tag team classic at Revolution, and it all leads to something and it builds to something, and that's been my biggest takeaway as well. I'm glad we led with that. It's just awesome to have. At this point for me, like in AEW in 2020, the matches of the year would either be the Iron Man match with Pac and Kenny that was on Dynamite, or the tag team match with Kenny and Paige and the Bucks. And I think that's just tremendously awesome that a tag team match is in the conversation for the match of a year candidate for a company, and not just because like it's a small sample size or the company's not good. It's because that match is so great, and when you have matches of that caliber, it's only going to move the needle even further in that direction. And as COVID-19 starts to fade away and we get to see more of the full-bodied roster come back and we continue to build, like that's been something they've done really well, and I think it's a testament to the focus and the effort that they've put into that division in trying to put tag team wrestling back on the map.
And we don't tiptoe around our love for tag team wrestling on here. Ant and I just, we've got a lot of time for it. So for me, when I first got into AEW, when it first came out in October, I gave it a chance for I think 3 months. I watched it and then kind of went away until just a couple of weeks ago. Like I just kind of thought it was refreshing that we were getting free tag team matches on one show, and it wasn't just a case of let's put XYZ together because it feeds the narrative of whatever storyline's going on. It was free tag team matches, all with legit tag teams, all with established tag teams, all within their own little bubble. It didn't bring in all this kind of BS, like you're in this storyline, we're going to link you with this guy with this storyline, and we're going to bring this guy in just for shits and giggles, because why the hell not, because he's got nothing else to do this week. It was just nice to have real teams with purpose, shown some respect. And I remember saying that to you a couple of times when you were like back before you were a co-host and you were just coming on. And I was just like, well, how many tag team matches have we had at this point? And like, it was like the tag team division's doing really well. Like I remember bigging up SCU. Like I was a really big fan of them. Like you just said, Scorpio Sky is a guy that has really stood out from that. And I remember us like, our noses were up his arse when we were talking about AEW back then. And he's come a long way since then. Like from what I can see,
he of all people, because I would say I've been I mean, we're not hipstering or gatekeeping here, but I've been a fan of the Elite for years. But like when I was watching Being the Elite like years back, because I used to watch it because I used to watch a lot of like Solo Monster and stuff like that on YouTube. So it used to be on TV tracks, and you could it was on YouTube, and it was like part of their podcast, like the best bits, and then it would like recommend you stuff. So the first time I watched like a Being the Elite, it was recommended off like the back of a Solo Monster, and I was like, this is interesting. This is also very strange. And I watched it from the beginning. Like I watched it from the beginning. I took a bit of a break when they had Adam Cole, but I was watching it every week. And it was so refreshing to see Scorpio Sky, someone that when we saw SCU, like all of the stuff, because that can be a whole other section, everything that's been going on Being the Elite. Scorpio Sky was the one guy I was like, I don't feel... like I ain't got a feeling for his character. Like I can't get him. And I remember thinking that's going to be the hardest guy to translate that onto TV. And then he got onto TV and he's amazing. And I was like, oh shit, like he's actually really good. Because I just didn't respect, because I was like, I knew who Frank Kazarian was, I knew who Christopher Daniels was, but I had no idea who Scorpio Sky was. And AEW has shown me who Scorpio Sky is, and that is a very special thing. That's a really special thing.
Yeah, that's a really tremendous point. I remember seeing him. I don't remember what show. I've been to. I feel like I'm also doing like a hipster gatekeeping thing, but of all the like New Japan.
I saw him live. I saw the internet.
Yeah.
I saw him live.
Exactly. Of like all these awesome Ring of Honor and New Japan shows that I've been to here in New York City. But I remember seeing him, and like, of course, like I knew who Daniels was and Kazarian was, and I was like, who's this other dude they're trying to like get over? And then I'd be like, well, he's athletic, but like, meh. And I wasn't a huge fan of SCU, and I respected Kazarian and Daniels for like who they were and what they had been. And in seeing them at the shows, they're always at like the merch table in like a really fun way. They're like two really cool, awesome, humble dudes, especially for, I mean, I know there are like quote unquote stars in this industry, but for me, like Christopher Daniels put on some of the greatest matches in like TNA history, and Kazarian, no matter when he was doing the suicide bits or like him as himself, he's always great. So to me, those are like two legit dudes that are like established veterans that don't have to like do the grindy stuff that like younger wrestlers do, and they do, and they're so awesome about it. And yeah, I felt the same way about Scorpio Sky, and I was like, well, like we'll kind of see. And then they kept pushing SCU, and I was like, well, I get it, they're established names, you got to lead with that when you go on TV, yada yada, whatever. And then yeah, that episode of Dynamite where he didn't have his shoe, and then
yes, that's the one we covered.
Yes, yeah. And then someone threw the shoe back. As soon as that shoe came back from like the crowd, I immediately was like, this guy's fucking over. And then he was just jumping out of the fucking roof with one shoe and just so athletic. And those are the type of cool things like from tag team wrestling. Like I hate to tie back to more nostalgia things, but like I am so used to, oh, like the Hart Foundation's a great tag team, but this Bret Hart guy's got something. Let's make him a guy. Oh, the Rockers are sweet, but you know what? That's Shawn Michaels. He's got something. Let's make him something. And so immediately I started thinking like, oh my God, like Scorpio Sky could be that breakout dude, whether they do heel stuff with him or face or whatever, but like he's got me now. And I thought of the same thing. I literally, when he broke out in that episode of me, I was thinking back to all the times at the shows that I was at, just being like, man, this guy doesn't really do anything for me. And then I was watching him on Dynamite being like, I can't believe I ever thought that.
Well, did you ever, because obviously all of this stuff that they've produced separately to what's going on, the storyline which some of us have been following along for like 4 or 5 years before AEW even appeared, there was this thing that Kazarian and Daniels used to do. So if people remember when they were in TNA as Bad Influence, they left TNA as Bad Influence and went onto the indie scene, Kazarian and Daniels, and they went around like drinking and stuff. And they couldn't be called Bad Influence because, you know, that stupid owl that like keeps all the trademarks. So they became the Addiction. And they went on, so they went on the indie scene as the Addiction. They were basically Bad Influence, And they used to do YouTube shows as the Addiction with the Bucks because the Bucks were doing BTE. And they were doing all that shit, and they had their own show called like The Addiction. And if you go back and look at their channel, they were trying to do the same thing. They were trying to kind of, and then you could see that they couldn't do it themselves. So then they just got folded into BTE, and not like they couldn't do it themselves because they're crap. It's just that they didn't have enough material on their own. So then they just got folded in, and those are those kind of little moments where you're like, the sum of its parts are way more strong than just the individuals. And there's just these little flashbang moments throughout the history that you can just see that connection being made. It's like when Cody first comes in BTE, like the first time he comes in and he starts doing stuff and you're like, oh my God, like he's increasing their production value. Like he's just come in and he's gone, I'm going to do that. And then they're all like, oh yeah, that's cool. And he's like, and you can see like the next episode after he's in it, the sound's better. Like the sound is better. It's a really weird thing, but I can remember the episode before and all the sound was weird. And then the next episode, you can tell he's in there and he's just like, what if we use like actual mics instead of shouting at the camera? And you can go, oh, God damn it.
That might work.
Yeah, that's a thing that we did in the WWE. Let's try it.
It's such an awesome thing to see it come together like that. Just again, like that perspective, like the company as a whole, I think that's what gets lost in it. I think a lot, even for me at times, but the idea that, you know, you had this great tag team and then this great singles wrestler in Kenny Omega, and then they kind of become like the three best friends type of thing. And then Paige gets involved a bit, and then Cody leaves and wants to do like the indie scene and does this and falls in with them. And the fact that you basically just had these guys who loved wrestling and who were very good wrestlers who just became really good friends. And then one day we're like, hey, you know what? Like, could we do like our own company? And then they linked up with this like rich guy's son who loves wrestling and isn't like a dick about it or a jerk about it. And he genuinely loves it for the sport that it is. and then they just made a company. And I recognize they've had some ups and downs as is expected, especially when you're in the infancy of creating something. But that tag team division, like to tie it back, I guess, to the original point, is a shining beacon within AEW, but in wrestling as a whole. Like that tag team division in AEW is tremendous. And you need something early on when you start. You have to hang your hat on something. And they use Jericho to do it for the commerciality aspect and for the singles division part. And then they use the tag team division as their like wrestling in-ring thing to hang their hat on. And it's worked. Like they've done a very good job with that.
And on the flip side of that, moving on to something else, you have the women's division. Again, king of segues. Thank you.
You're great at it. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how he does it.
That was bloody awesome.
I'm not gonna release the secrets of the trade. I'm afraid that's for this noggin and this noggin alone. Sorry, guys. But the women's division, again, from an outsider looking in, especially that first 3 or 4 months that I was watching, it wasn't. I'm not even gonna fucking tiptoe around it. It was shit. You could compare it to so many promotions. Like you've got the WWE side of things, because obviously that's where I'm honed in anyway, especially NXT. Like their women's roster is stacked. Then you've got Stardom out there as well. You just look and compare all of this stuff to what AEW had, and it was just so lackluster. Like there was no focus on it. And like I always thought that when this thing came around, because it was new and it was fresh, and women's wrestling seemed to have this hold on things at that time, I thought, well, AEW are going to start pushing the women's division on their side of things, and it just never seemed to happen. But since I went away, it seems like it's starting to catch up with everybody else. I'm seeing more and more names being affiliated with AEW, whether they're signed or not, because I think, obviously you guys will correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think they just pull people in for one-offs or just like the odd appearance here and there. But I know they've got obviously their signed talent as well. But I think their roster is starting to build up a little bit, because like I said, I'm starting to see more and more names being affiliated with AEW on the women's side of things, and the matches seem to be getting better. I think it's moving in the right direction. I still don't think it's there yet, but it is definitely moving in the right direction. So Fowl, move to you first. Over the last year, or maybe from October, how have you perceived the women's division of AEW?
It's a really weird one. Like, as you said, it was shit. And that's probably the best way to describe it. The women's division in AEW had a really unfortunate start. I think that's what happened, and the men's division just home run immediately, and that's the comparison is such a big one, because Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker, was the first one that got signed. She was the first woman. Yeah,
I've heard she's a dentist. Is that true?
I've heard that Adam Cole calls her girlfriend. I've heard that as well, but
it's weird.
I think he calls her fiance now, doesn't he? But anyway. Yeah, that's another story. That's not on his HMO. That's not on his HMO.
It's not covered.
It's not covered. Not covered. He's got a deductible for that. Dr. Britt Baker was obviously the first person that was signed, and she was the first woman that was signed, and a big deal was made of it. Big song and dance was made of this at the original signing. And it was hey, she signed. Congratulations. Great. So then we don't see her in anything until her first match, and then she injures herself in her first match. Now, Tony, and this is something that comes from the rumor mill or whatever. There was this point when apparently Tony Khan said that he was disappointed with some of the people that had been signed. Now, you then immediately look at the whole of the big first signings, don't you? You immediately look at, who did he sign to a ridiculously stupid, lucrative contract? Because the books went, he's really cool, or Cody went, he's really cool, and then he went into his Bischoff mode and went, well, I guess Hogan says he's cool, so let's go sign him. And Britt Baker was one of them. Even though she is good, she was just learning, and so she would be amazing very, very soon. And she was a bit unsure of herself, and so that happened. because of all of that, it looked like they had no faith in her. Then they brought in Brie Priestley. She decided to injure people and injure herself. Then they had the disastrous tag team match where Britt Baker goddamn concussed herself. And then, like, I remember watching that match, and there's a point when she's so out of it, she tries to tag in the wrong corner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
I remember that.
when I
Sorry, I
watched
feel bad
that
laughing,
bit,
but yeah.
no, but it's funny, isn't it? Because when I'm watching it, I'm doing the watch along, aren't I? Like live on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, look at this spot. She's pretending to go to the wrong corner. And then I was like, oh, is she being racist? Because like both of the team members were from like were Japanese wrestlers. I was like, is this a meta commentary on maybe her being a heel? No, it's because she was knocked the fuck out.
Yeah. She doesn't know
Like,
where she is.
yeah. And she just went, oh, are you person that can help me, please? Like, that's all she was doing. And it's been really unfortunate because the women's division now, and even back then, like, is controlled, like Kenny Omega is booking it all. So it's weird, and you can tell when he wants to do something and maybe the time and the execution isn't there. But now, with people like Nyla Rose, Chris Statlander, I'd probably say Hikaru Shida as well. Hikaru Shida's been an absolute revelation. I've seen her in Makai, which is a totally different kind of wrestling. It's more theatrical. And even recently, Penelope Ford, who I hadn't really seen other than being like involved in matches, she's really impressed me. And there is a depth of talent there. The major issue was Riho, the Brock Lesnar of the women's division, and she wasn't there. Yeah, she wasn't there. Yeah, you can tell, like, you look at the physical similarities between them. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, oh yeah, she wasn't there, and she was booked as a face champ. So you're booked as a face champ who is never there, and then you win against Nyla Rose, which I think wasn't the smart booking there. Nyla was already over. You should have just given her the goddamn belt. Yeah, but that's obviously Kenny, like, going, I want to get people from Japan over, because at the time we just had Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka being absolutely screwed over in the WWE.
Yeah.
And so you could see the logic. Yeah, there's logic in that booking. Like, it is logical in context. But comparatively speaking to the men's division, it was shit. And the second they took the belt off Riho, I got really excited in that division again. Like, and Britt Baker has been an absolute revelation. She's injured again, but she was been an absolute revelation. Yeah, that show when she got her face busted open from Hikaru Shida, you have to understand that was filmed. Yeah, then on the next show she comes out, it's not the next show, is it? It's later on in the same set of tapings. That means she got herself busted open ridiculously. Yeah? Like, we're talking like Becky Lynch times 5,000, and then, you know, Becky Lynch, Nia Jax times 5,000, and then she comes out later on and has another match. I'm like, if you can't say that woman isn't a good investment, you're lying until she gets injured. But until she gets injured, yeah, she's really good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It's, I think, to juxtapose it with like the tag team division, right, and the men's division, when you have something, I'll start from like the beginning of it. AEW, there were, for the people, it polarized the industry. There were people who wanted to see it fail, and then the other people who thought it was going to be the best thing ever. It was going to revolutionize wrestling, and everything was going to be great. And the singles division and the tag team division for the men, everything for the men, you had people that you could hang your hat on as established people to be like, here's the person that's going to anchor our division. The women did not have that. And much to Fowl's point, with the hullabaloo that was made around Britt Baker, the thought is like, okay, this is going to be the person that they're going to hang the division on. This is the person that is going to carry the division. And then she sort of fell flat, and that was a bad start. And then when you don't have that anchor, you have to hope that the rest of the division is good enough and deep enough so that, you know, you might not have an A+ person, but overall everybody's about a B to a B+ or A-, so the division as a whole is really good. And then they also started to not have that. And then you have some botches here and there, and you add the Brandy storyline and all these different pieces. And again, when you're comparing it to the rest of the show, like, well, the Bucks and Lucha Bros just had this amazing match, and oh man, like Paige is crushing it, and Jericho is amazing for like a 46-year-old champ, and like, oh, the Inner Circle looks great, and there's like Orange Cassidy's awesome. There's all these like great, cool things that are happening on the men's side, and then the women's side isn't. And when you add that bad wrestling and compare it again, because it's what everybody does in wrestling, when you compare it to what's going on in Stardom, which is just unreal, they just keep producing amazing women's wrestlers like hand over fist. And then NXT and WWE, where the roster is so deep, like, I hate the way Charlotte Flair is booked, but she's a tremendous wrestler. Sasha's a tremendous wrestler. Io Shirai, for me, is a top 10 wrestler in the world, not just like women's. I put her in the top 10, period. Rhea Ripley has come out of nowhere and been really good. Dakota Kai, you've got Tegan Knox, like even all these people that just seem to, like, every week it's just like, oh, well, there's another women's wrestler who just seems to be great. And then you're over in AEW and it's like, oh, there's another women's match that didn't really hit for us.
I think the problem with AEW was, and this was a theme of AEW, a lot of it was self-fulfilling prophecy. The women's matches were being perceived by people as being crap, so they got all put on Dark, and every single one, essentially the whole women's division was being played out on Dark. And no, there's nothing wrong with being on AEW Dark here. Like, being on there, like Kenny went on there to kind of say like it's cool, but it's the equivalent of the Undertaker going on Main Event for that one time to say, hey man, I've been on it, and like that doesn't mean anything. It's actually quite insulting because you know that they're only there for no reason.
Yep.
And so that really damaged it, because it also became, people would say, like, you couldn't follow. And the whole point about AEW, which I think is great as a package of itself, is if you don't watch all this ancillary stuff here, if all you do is watch only the 2 hours a week, because some people haven't got millions of hours to watch, like Dits, like yourself, if all you had was the 2 hours on that Saturday morning to watch a show, you'd go, you know what, screw it, I'm going to watch Dynamite. Yeah. I don't have time to learn about all the other shit that's happening in their universe, but if they can present a 2-hour program to me that I can understand, I'm gonna watch this every week. I might then every now and then go and watch something on Dark if I've got time, but if I don't have to, I'm not going to. And that's something they do really well. But then you'd have these random things happen on like the main show where it's like, oh, this is a women's like number one contender. How did that happen? Previously on AEW Dark. Oh, all right, cool. All right, fine. I'll take that. That's fine.
Yeah, that definitely contributes to it. And when you package that all together and juxtapose with everything that's going around you in other companies and in your own company, it makes you look even worse by comparison. And I think where they are now, I still don't think the women's division is where they want it to be, but I will say it's much improved. The matches have gotten better. Their individual wrestlers have gotten better. Shida has been fantastic. I remember when they debuted the video package last year at Double or Nothing for Sadie Gibbs. I love Sadie Gibbs, and I thought she was going to be like amazing. And then like she kind of got into it with Priestley a little bit, and there was some backstage stuff, and I was like, okay, so this isn't going to hit. And there was, the little drama thing here and there amongst the roster, and all of it together, just worked against them. I also think I don't like, and this may just be me, I think the belt is too tiny.
Yeah,
like, even for Rio, it looks like she got it in, like, she put a quarter in a machine and it came out, or she made one of those, like Disney World used to do this thing. Like, it looks like a quarter machine belt. Or Disney used to do this thing where they would give you these, like, big gold, like, thumbprint size gold coins with, like, Donald Duck or like Mickey on them, and like that's what the center plate looks like for the women's belt to me. And it just, when Nyla's walking around carrying it like it's like a bracelet. Satchel, a bracelet that's perfect, or like a choker, like it just doesn't look. That also hurts it for me a bit. I feel like that kind of is not great with the prestige. And again, when you're starting off, Rio gets the belt, and then they unveil the belt, and it's kind of like, wow, and then Rio gets it, and you're like, and then she's not really there, and then she's there but still winning all the time, and it's not great, and then all of it together is like, Okay, and I think they're trending upwards, but yeah.
Actually, mentioning that, I forgot the other problem with the women's division. There's so many. The other problem with the women's division was Tony Khan seems to be too nice. And there was supposed to be, and it was presented, and it was all booked, and it was all said it was going to happen. Chris Statlander versus Riho for the championship. It was Chris Statlander versus Riho, and it was supposed to be for the championship, and it's all being booked, and everyone's like, well, Riho's never here, so she's going to be here. Fantastic. Obviously, she's dropping the belt. And Chris Statlander couldn't be there because she'd already pre-booked at Bar Wrestling. Yes. And she was like, I'm not going to go there. And I've had a previous booking. And then Tony's like, well, unlike the WWE, we are going to screw over our talent. So yeah, go to Bar Wrestling. Your main event will happen next week. And I was like, well, that's fine. But didn't you think it would have been a good idea to go to Chris Statlander and say, we're going to put the belt on you in a week or so? Have you got anything else happening? Yeah, I'm going to be at this thing called Bar Wrestling. Is it cool if we don't do it this week? Yes, that's fine. We won't tell anyone about this. Fantastic. This is professional conversation. Instead, it's just she will defend next week. And then next week came on Tuesday, and it was unfortunately, Chris Statlander is at the bar. And I was like, what the fuck's she drinking? Should be defending this title.
She's supposed to fight for the belt? Yeah, that you got that feeling that it was kind of all right, cool, we booked this, we did this, we're going to do this. Have we all checked with the talent to make sure they're all available? And then it's I need to make a call. And then they go to make the call, and they're like, ooh, we've made a mistake.
Where's your money? It's a Jeff's house.
And it just that doesn't help. And again, I think they're trending upward. I think they've gotten better. I still don't think it's where they would like it to be. It's not changed the channel level bad like it was at one point. It's gotten significantly better, but I know it's not where they want it to be. But it's good for now, but could be better.
And going from one ridiculously tiny belt to one huge fucking belt, I want to talk about the AEW Championship itself, the men's single top prize, because I think this has had a good spotlight throughout the last year, especially from my perspective. I mean, I'm a big Chris Jericho guy. He's on my Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, so seeing him on top was a big win for me, and especially considering that I was not expecting it. It was even nicer as that extra little bit of a cherry on the cake for me. And the fact that he held it for so long as well, I missed a big portion of his run. I think I stopped around the time I can't even name the event, when he faced Cody Rhodes on pay-per-view. What it was? I'm gonna throw a Fighter Fest out there, but it probably wasn't that.
No, it was Full Gear.
Yes,
Full Gear.
I was sitting in my head. I was like, it's like Metal Gear, but it's not metal, and it's a joke to Adam Page, but it's got gear in it. Yep, Full Gear.
But I think that championship has had a very good year from from everything I have personally seen week on, week off, and then obviously when I went away, just seeing stuff on social media and the way that belt is presented. I think it's had a really good time, and obviously John Moxley's now come in, and I think he's doing a decent job of it as well. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of it, because I want to talk about the upper card as a whole, because I think that's where a lot of the focus with AEW is. Of course it is. Before we go on to talking about some promising stars and some of your favorite matches throughout the year, but focus on that championship belt. How do you feel about Chris Jericho's run initially, and then his little feuds that he's had, and then just everything around it? What are your thoughts?
Take it away, Fowl.
Oh, okay. Oh, fine. Sorry. Yes, so Jericho. I'm a big fan of Jericho. I love Jericho. I, at the time, didn't think that he should win the belt. And I was down for Paige, being the anointed one. I seen the story, and, I had the context in my mind that he'd been to the WWE, and, there was an inbuilt story, and they were building him up, and he was winning everything. And when he didn't win it, I was really angry, for about 10 minutes. Then I realized that Jericho has to win that belt because it wouldn't make sense to give it to Paige. And as he went backstage and celebrated, that was the 10-minute period in which I was like, shit, no, he needs to be the champ. This is his belt. This is no one else's belt. because in my mind, I didn't see him defending every week. I didn't feel he could. Like, I fell into that kind of almost Vince mentality where I'm like, well, he ain't gonna be able to keep up with them. He's just gonna be out there hogging the belt, like, and not in a bad way, like it needs to be held. But I'm like, well, he's gonna have one match every few months on pay-per-view. He's not gonna be there every week. He's just gonna be like the villain, like laughing on the top of the stage. He's never gonna do anything. And then he was there in the main event like every week. Mm-hmm. Even if it was a tag team match, even if it was against like Darby, when I hear that match against Darby Allin, and I remember going, what the fuck? Like, because this is not something a man of his age, of his prestige, having the title in, at the time for me, like I was looking at it as like a WCW retread, and I'm thinking, well, how many like champions can you think would put themselves in a match with Darby Allin, who is, as JR says many times, quicker than a hiccup? He's quicker than like a hiccup squared. Like he just
2 hiccups.
Yeah, no, like 4 hiccups. Like I just think he's so good. Like, and people don't seem to give him that credit. And then I'm looking at Jericho and I'm thinking, well, he can't keep up with him. Then I watched the match and I thought, well, shit. Yeah. Darby Allin's coming out looking like amazing. Yeah, like amazing, because he's hung with Jericho. Jericho hung with him. And at that point, like the belt being on him for that amount of time, I thought it was shit to start with, and then I understood why. You got to build it up, you've got to give it that prestige. The belt itself, when Jack Whitehall was holding it, looked a bit stupid. When Brett was holding it, it looked all right. When Jericho was holding it, chef's kiss. Like, he's got it. Like, and he's even like the Painmaker gimmick fits the belt. Like, he started to dress like the belt. Like, if you looked at his outfits and stuff, and for him it had that kind of Rockstar mentality. And I think if he didn't win the championship, the Inner Circle couldn't exist, because it existed to protect like a paranoid but very good comparable champion, and you wouldn't have been able to build it. And him having the belt built 4 other stars. That's what it did. It built a company, it built 4 other stars. There's no... Look at Sammy Guevara from this point now to last year. The stupid shit he was doing on BT when he was hanging in the background, like fucking with people. Now he's doing that stuff to a massive audience. And he was in the main event in Dynamite this week against Matt Goddamn Hardy. And it was a great match. And he did a lot with a little. And I just think that the belt and the championship itself, it's definitely been held by people that I feel needed to. Like, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, yeah, but it's only been held by like WWE people. But, like, so they're known quantities, they're known values, they're known draws. That's not what's wrong with that.
No.
You're not, yeah. If maybe they'd signed like a Sting, yeah, which might still happen, and they gave him the belt, then you can sit here and say that is a shit idea. But they're not. And maybe they do give the belt to Sting, and maybe he pulls off an Undertaker, and they start having matches in his basement, and then it's not his basement, it's just some other place, and he's not even signed, and he's just in a home. But, like, you know...
He's just in a home.
He's just in a home. But yeah, none of the belt. I really like the look of it, and I like the champion so far. I think it's been well protected.
I remember the first thing that we were supposed to get with the belt was Pac versus Page for the title. And then due to the booking that was going on with Pac and Dragon Gate and him being champ and him not wanting, there was all this like complication, and so the match didn't happen, and that's what turned it into like the winner of the Battle Royal goes to the championship match, and the winner of Kenny and Jericho faces the winner of the Battle Royal, so on and so forth. And I remember thinking when it was Page and Pac, I was like, there's no way they're going to put the belt on Page. I don't think he's ready. And Pac is awesome. Like, he's such a great wrestler. And you also get the belt on a champion who going into TV casual viewers can be like, oh shit, isn't that Neville from WWE? Oh, okay. And then when you see you get to please the WWE viewer who might be tuning in to be like, well, I like Neville, he's awesome. And then you get the actual wrestling fans who are like, he's one of the best wrestlers, like he's awesome, I'm a fan. I thought they had to put the belt on somebody more established. No disrespect to Paige in that regard. I thought the first champion had to be someone established. And then I also thought they had to put it on someone that wasn't attached to the elite. I think the easy and kind of low-hanging fruit of negativity for so many people was like, oh, okay, now we're going to go into this company that's run by Kenny and the Bucks and Cody. Kenny's going to be the first champ, and the Bucks are going to be like the tag champs, and yada, yada. And I felt that they also wanted to stay away from that stigma and not turn into a WCW where it was just like, well, I'm going to book myself to be the champ, and then like maybe I'll lose if like I get tased or something crazy happens, but like I'm going to be the champ and this and that. And so they were trying to, and I thought that was a difficult thing to do because I would have been cool if Kenny got the belt. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world, especially at that time coming off of his New Japan run. Like I would have been cool with that, but it's been better the way that they've kind of made him start from the bottom and go up. And that the politics aspect of it and the real world implications played into it. And then again, when you're talking about who's going to be your first champion, it needs to be someone with recognition and with credibility. And once it was Paige versus Jericho, I had already had in my mind that Jericho was going to be the guy winning it. Going to that pay-per-view with my boy even like called it. He called it the day before we went. He was like, Judas Effect is going to be his thing. He's going to win it with the Judas Effect. And I was like, well, that's a very specific prediction. And then when it happened, he just was staring at me in the crowd. And I was just like, man, fuck you for your stupid prediction. But it made sense. You put the belt on a guy that everybody knows and everybody respects and who's reinvented himself by going to New Japan and doing all these things. And yeah, Fowl, to your point, I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, so is he like just going to wrestle at the pay-per-views? Like, what's going to kind of happen? And then here he was at every single Dynamite, wrestling almost every week in tag matches against guys that were unestablished in singles matches, all these things. And then, yes, you get the inner circle out of it. You've built a credible stable off of the championship win and belt attachment to Chris Jericho. And I love the way the belt looks. I love the prestige that it has right now because it was first held by Jericho, and he had a good run. He was a quality champion in and of himself. He put on good matches, and then he lost it to Moxley, who is arguably the most over guy in the company, who, much like Jericho, has reinvented himself. I liked the Shield. I thought they were great. I knew Moxley from CZW. I thought he was just like a hardcore bloody guy. And then in the Shield, I thought he was the worst wrestler in the Shield. I thought he was boring. I was not a fan. Then I saw him in the G1, and I was like, oh, fuck, he can, like, wrestle. He can go. And then he's in
G1 is a revelation for me. Absolute revelation, seeing Moxley there.
I came away from last year's G1 with, other than, like, being happy with it as a whole, I came away being like, Moxley can fucking wrestle, and holy shit, I didn't know Lance Archer could do 90% of those things that Lance Archer did.
Oh Jesus, that match between Lance Archer and Moxley, just taking a quick tangent, the no holds barred one, when Lance Archer tried to murder John Moxley.
Literally tried to murder him.
What are you doing? You're putting a bag over his face. You're suffocating him. Okay, you're going to kill him. Like, I can't wait for them to properly, like, butt heads in Dynamite, because it hasn't happened yet. And the last thing that happened was Moxley took his US championship, didn't he? And
yes.
Like, ran him out the company. Like, that's the kind of stuff, like, you know, we're talking about the belt and talking about them not booking it on themselves. Like, we haven't mentioned the fact that Cody can't go for the championship.
Yes.
Because Cody Rhodes, when he had that match against Jericho, which launched 1,000 storylines, when he had that match and MJF threw in the towel and then he went heel and everything went down, like that, if he didn't win that match, he was never allowed to challenge for the championship ever again, which, to your point, Ant, when you were talking about like there being a lot of issues with people thinking that they're going to book themselves and shit, and like that specifically was taken away because we had this kind of almost mirroring of history where you'd have a Rhodes in charge of the booking, in charge and an active competitor, one that a lot of people could consider as championship material, like based on his prestige and his pedigree and him himself. And it's very easy to just say, well, cool, I'm the first champ, right? We take it in turns, right? It's our company, right? We got 5 years, right? We all take a belt, and that's cool. They didn't do that. And I think at that point, and especially when that first happened, everyone was like, well, when's the loophole going to happen? And the loophole will happen at some point, yeah. It's going to be, but it won't be until, and it's very, very smart, until the crowd want it. Because the crowd were all, you know, when you went to those events, the rabid AEW fans, you know, they are like Cody Rhodes can do nothing wrong.
Yes.
But the audience at home that are seeing him for the first time, you know, they need that journey. They need it. They're the ones that need it. Once in TV kind of situation, they're happy enough, then you can put the belt on anyone. You can put the belt on a Cody Rhodes, because and with Kenny as well, Kenny having to start from the bottom, I thought that was fantastic, and I still think it is, because Kenny is a very intangible individual. People don't know why he's the best. But then he does something like in that the street fight, he does a random moonsault off the top of a goddamn like cherry picker, and it's the most beautiful moonsault in the world. Like, you look at it and you're like, and there's no fear when you watch him do that moonsault. It's not like he climbs up there all gingerly and gets it. No, he literally extends his legs, jumps straight on. Like, it's not even a moonsault; it's a fucking Asai moonsault, off the top of a cherry picker, and he lands it perfectly. That's the kind of shit that he does, but it's because of the way he puts his matches together. You're not always going to get that. Like, sometimes you're not. And with him, I think giving him a chance to give the rub to all those talent, like all those people from AEW Dark, all the people from the recent tapings, and they were on the AEW Dark stuff like Sugar Dunkerton and Danny Jordan and all those kind of people that got a chance to have matches. There was a guy that had a match against Kenny Omega, and then the internet started going, that's shit, you shouldn't have had that match. He asked for that match. He asked to have a match against someone to give him a shot.
Yep.
If those guys, and that's why I love the Elite so much, is they know longevity, and they know that if they just give themselves a strap, that's fine, but no one's going to care. And with the championship, like the length at which Jericho held it, I remember so many times like looking at him going up against someone, I was like, they're going to take the belt off him now. Yep. Like, they're going to, and then they didn't. And I was like, all right, that's weird. But every time I was like, that's weird, but I felt Jericho getting stronger from it the whole way through. But it's a very interesting like dynamic, and we've got to watch like what the Bucks and Tony Khan think is the way to build contenders and champions. Because if they do it in a way which is organic, you could see the Jungle Boys, those kind of guys rise up at the same time.
Yes.
And they'll be on the same playing field. And I think that's what they're going for. And if that's the case, we're seeing it. We're seeing MJF getting through his jerk phase into his angry jerk phase. Like, we're seeing it, and we're seeing a Jungle Boy. I have a real lot of love for this company and the way that they build their division and build their stars. And the championship is just another one of those facets that really they've got just fucking nailed down for me.
Yeah, I echo that completely. They have taken their wrestling fandom and their wrestling experience and wealth of knowledge and combine that with everything that they possibly may have seen or learned in New Japan, with how Gato books everything like 74 years in advance and has like contingency plans for every wrestler and how he's going to build who and what's going to happen. And there's guys that I am fully convinced that there are young lions in the dojo that he's pegged, and he's like, all right, in 2027, you're going to win the Intercontinental title. And then 2 years later, you'll win the G1. Like, and they have incorporated some of that and then just their overall knowledge of everything into AEW to book things correctly. I 1000% agree with your sentiments there. And it's nice just to see, like everything fits, everything tells a story. Even with the Cody aspect, like lead us to a point where we want him to win the belt so bad that when they find that loophole, we're all cool with it. Or maybe he does some dickhead shit and turns heel and does a loophole like that and then gets the belt.
Because we ain't seen heel Cody in AEW yet. And funnily enough, heel Cody is very similar to heel MJF. You know when he got that like ring and he started doing all that shit? I was like, this is Cody from when he was in ROH, telling everyone to kiss the ring because he didn't have the belt. Yeah, I know. And I was watching it. And even like when he was pulling out the sanitizer and he used to clean it, like, I was falling in love with this whole thing. And I was like, MJF's doing the Cody thing. So I thought it'd be quite interesting if later on, because Brandy's heel technically, and I like that actually. Just very quick tangent, very brief. I really like the fact that that Cody was like, I don't know what Brandy's up to. Like, like
I don't know.
Like when he was having his big thing, and he's just like, well, Brandy's doing some shit with like awesome. I don't know why, but she's doing some weird. I'll let her do her stuff. Like, she's going around cutting people's hair and beating people up. Oh, that's fine. It's just my wife.
Yeah, she's got this cult. She's got her book club or whatever it is.
She got Dr. Luther. Just let her just go do shit or whatever it is.
Yeah, that could work. Like, I am cool for the whole idea of it is like, again, wrestling, and this is what I've always said to people who like mock wrestling or, well, it's fake or scripted or whatever. So is the only difference between like wrestling and other forms of entertainment that people watch are it's just like a movie, it's just like a TV show, except the main characters and the main actors do their own stunts and they do it like 5 nights a week and like 300 days out of the year, and it's live most of the time. And within that, you want to be impressed with what's going on in the ring. I value like work rate and athleticism and technical ability and all that stuff. But the strongest reaction to anything is the emotion and the storylines and the things that make sense and that are coherent. And that's been my biggest thing with the championship. Like, and I use that as a representation of how AEW has been. Like, everything has made sense. Like, it makes sense for Jericho from a business standpoint, but also from like an on-screen standpoint for him to have the belt and for him to win, and then for him to lose to Moxley and how he lost to Moxley, and for what's going on with Cody. Like, it makes sense we know the wrestling, I mean, to a degree, we know the wrestling business, so we can understand why it makes sense for this guy to win and for this person to lose and why these people should have the belt. But it's one thing to have that, but also have it make sense on screen. And for you to not be able to watch it and be like, oh, of course, because it's scripted or whatever. But like, you should be able to watch wrestling as if you're watching a TV show or movie and suspend disbelief. Like, obviously, there's no such thing as fucking Thor coming from the sky with a hammer, but nobody.
Whoa.
Sorry, I know you're not. I know he's not. That's a thing for another time.
You know, I'm only 15 years old. Come on, give me a goddamn, give me a chance.
But no one sits there and does that and they're like, well, this is so fucking unrealistic. This guy's supposed to be like a god and his hammer, he can't, how can you throw the hammer and catch? Like, nobody does that, but they'll do that with wrestling. But when there's good wrestling, you don't do that. You just watch it and appreciate it. And that's what I've enjoyed for the title picture and the title scene for AEW. Because again, it makes sense. Like, Jericho wins the belt. Paige wasn't ready. Jericho forms this crew to insulate himself and protect the belt. But then Moxley kind of has his number and knows what's up and is great on his own and takes the belt. And then there's all these different pieces that connect and they make sense and they tell a story, and we're getting good matches in the ring out of it. I am very happy with where the belt is right now in terms of prestige and the way it looks, the way it was presented. Bret Hart's my favorite wrestler of all time. That was like the biggest treat ever. I had no fucking idea that was going to happen. And they were like, now to introduce the belt. I was like, what? Like, Bret Hart? And then he just came out. I was like, oh my God.
Didn't they want Flair? I heard they wanted Flair, and they couldn't get Flair, so they got Bret. Well, 4 out of 10.
I'll take
I think I popped just as much for Jack Whitehall appearing on AEW, because that was fucking left wing for, like, I mean, I don't know. Do you know who Jack Whitehall is, Ant?
I do not.
Like,
I know of, but like not why it's as big of a deal.
It was the most random thing I have ever experienced in wrestling, seeing Jack Whitehall in AEW. I was like, I have no idea why. To this day, I still don't know. I actually thought maybe Jack Whitehall is going into the wrestling industry in some way, shape, or form.
That's what I thought.
It was so bizarre.
Wait, he was on like the first time I saw him, yeah, he was on like one of the YouTube road tours, and I was like, what the fuck's Jack Whitehall doing here? I was like, okay, that's fine. And then it was on ITV, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then he's at like the event. I was like, what are you doing there? And then I just had this vision of him trying to become like the next Michael Cole, and like in his mind, he's like, well, I'm gonna go there, I'll become Michael Cole. And he looks at Tony Khan, and Tony's like, nah, sorry. Yeah, not happening. Yeah. Go
Wasted.
get some better education. Go get your education. Like, that's a British joke. Like, actually, on BBC America, I think Bad Education comes on there. Maybe you've seen the movie with Jack Whitehall, star of AEW. Like, it's
AEW star Jack Whitehall.
It's the first AEW star to branch out into Hollywood. Good on him.
like, of course.
Yeah, we love a good tangent on this show. So with the championship, I think something that feeds a championship a lot, of course, is the people that are vying for it, the people that are challenging for it. And I know that AEW have like a vast supply of ready-made wrestlers who you could fit into that championship mold with ease. Like, it might take a couple of weeks, might take a couple of months. Maybe they're ready right now. Like, they have plenty of options going forward. But like, before we start winding things down on the retrospective side of things, like let's look ahead a year. Like, who in the next year do you think is a believable option, somebody who's ready to go on and become the AEW champion? Give two each.
Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Oh, I was gonna be like, yeah, Okada.
Yeah, man. Either of those two guys would be freaking amazing. And like, it's the one thing we didn't mention was Jericho didn't just defend it in AEW. Theoretically, Jericho went to New Japan with theoretically, legitimately, and then in theory, he defended it against Tanahashi. In theory, and if
I was
Tanahashi had
rooting so
won,
hard for that.
oh my god, I was
just like,
Tanahashi
please, Tana, do it. And then I had this vision of like a year and a half from now, Kenny like winning the title, and the confetti's coming down. It's the celebration, and then you just hear the Rainmaker coins drop, and Okada comes out.
Shit.
And I got goosebumps thinking about it now. And that's how the pay-per-view closes. Like, I just had that, and then Tana lost, and I was like, fuck.
See, I got the same thing, yeah. I got the same thing. My story with Kenny was that Kenny like is falling in love with like quick tangent. On BTE, Kenny is falling in love with Colt Cabana. You can tell, yeah, like he's slowly falling in love with him. On the last episode, he was like, "You're pretty. You're really good at stuff. I really like you." Like, it's slow, sure, like he's falling in love with him, yeah. So what I wanted to happen was that like there's a love like quadrangle, yeah, and it's him, it's Colt, the new guy, it's Adam Page, like the put upon wife, and then Kota turns up. And then it's like, who do you choose? And he's like, you've been cheating on me with these two guys. Like, where's the Golden Lovers at? And then they have a four-way match.
Right.
Yeah, they have a four-way match. Yeah. The four-way's on Dark. Yeah, but they have a four-way match. And like, but like, I was really anyway. That's a tangent. But yes, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Hiroshi Tanahashi, or potentially from the people that are actually there. I would say that it would be really nice, but he's not ready yet, is Darby Allin. I think that would be really nice. But I could legitimately, and I say legitimately, see MJF becoming champ in the next year. Like, I could legitimately see that. Like, if
that.
Not champ, TNA champ. Not TNA champ. TNT champ.
Yep.
Moose is TNA champ.
Yeah, they're going to merge. There's like a handful that mid-card and like upper mid-card is such an interesting mix of I really think within the next year, just for like the low-hanging fruit that is somewhat easy, I think Kenny's going to be champ within the next year and a half, I think. But from an other perspective, I don't want to count him as one of my two. I could see Lance Archer being champ if they let him run. I think he'll win the TNT championship. We'll see how that turns. And then I also, I like that idea of MJF. I think his path is very interesting to me because his heel character is so strong. His Twitter game is great. He lives and breathes the kayfabe heel angle. He's not his real self at autograph signings. He's MJF everywhere he goes where there's a camera on. Like, it's tremendous. And I'm wondering, what is his trajectory? And if they really want to put him over the moon as like this heel, if he continues to go up and up and then gets the belt in the next year, oh my God, like that would be tremendous. And I've been wondering what his trajectory is, and I like that idea of him getting that championship. There are other guys that I like I like what Sammy Guevara is doing a lot, but I don't see him as getting the belt. And I agree on Darby Allin. I think it's a little too early still for him. I'm on that MJF bandwagon as well.
Like with MJF as well, like adding to the story and crinkles in the story, if he got the championship before Cody, we would never hear the end of this.
Correct. And then what can you do there? Like, if he wins the belt and starts this,
he's already said he isn't gonna grant another match to Cody.
Right.
Like, remember, we're in the middle of that storyline as well,
Correct.
where he's never gonna fight Cody again. So if he has the belt and Cody can't challenge for the belt, and he also won't give him a match, where's Cody at? Is Cody turning heel to then get there, beating up Wardlow and everything? And I don't know, one of MJF's rats.
Does it lead to this dark path that like Cody becomes obsessed with having to like end MJF and take him down, or like take the belt? Like, what does that do to Cody? There are so many opportunities, and I like MJF's character much more than I do him as a wrestler. He's not a bad wrestler, but I like his character by far more than I do his in-ring ability. And God, he would just be such a smarmy piece of shit with the ring and the scarf and he probably wouldn't even carry the belt. He would probably make Wardlow carry the belt and hold it for him.
He would, wouldn't he? Oh, gotta make him present it onto him every single event. Oh.
He would heal up that shit so much, and that's a spot on thing, because I think AEW has a lot of good young talent, but I don't see them being ready yet for the belt. And MJF would be someone who is on that young and up and coming side, but that realistic storyline angle and the heat and attention you could get for it, that would be tremendous.
Right,
so
I'm calling it now then, MJF wins and he goes on the Rosie O'Donnell show.
Oh, and he goes back to come full circle from when he was little.
How amazing would that be?
That would be great.
And you know where he is? They could probably make that shit happen because they're on TNT. I'm sure Rosie O'Donnell needs money. Like, it'll happen. Like,
I could see him, being like, "What the fuck is up now, Rosie? See this belt?
See this shit?
Fucking see what I've done since you punked me as this cute little kid back when I was like 8, bitch." That would be great.
So with my producer hat on, because I have essentially been producer for this episode, it's been great. To close off before we head into quiz territory, what I would say, what has been your match of the year, but that's an easy one. So I want to go for something a bit grander. Feuds of the year. Fowl, to you, what is in your feud of the year?
From Double or Nothing to this Double or Nothing.
Yes.
Cody and MJF, and also the general feud of Paige against the Elite. Even though it isn't a feud as such, like, I've liked that kind of dynamic happening where Paige is feuding with the Elite, but he's not. Like, I really liked that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome. And fire away.
Those are in my wheel. I don't want to pick those because I want to offer something different. I'm going to go with and I think his run, just when he was starting to turn and become even better and raise it to another level, I'm going to go with Pac and his overall like feud with not getting enough respect from management and like television opportunities. That storyline was really great. It fits his character, and then him aligning with the Lucha Brothers and forming Death Triangle is one of like the coolest fucking things. It sounds way better in Spanish than it does in English, but it's still awesome. They're all great, and they kind of faded away a bit, obviously because of COVID and everything that happened. But that feud with him just not feeling like he's gotten enough respect and that he's not gotten his due, I like that a lot. And then secondary to that, the underlying, the Page one with the Elite is tremendous, but just for the sake of adding more things to this, I'm gonna go with Guevara and Darby Allin. And Darby's just consistent, like everything he does, tied the vignettes, it all ties back to like the Inner Circle and Sammy in particular, and he hates him, and he hates him, and he hates him some more. Like that feud is something that, and again, I got goosebumps thinking about it. That's something that like 2 years from now or 3 or 4 or whatever, when Sammy is the champ and being an asshole, and Darby is finally like close to that mountaintop, and you can tie it back into where they first started. And Sammy, you can almost build like a whole, except it's reversed this time, and Sammy is like the pretty boy who is the bad guy, and Darby's like the grungy punk face. You can tie it almost back to like a Tommy Dreamer Raven scenario, where Tommy could just never get over Raven. No matter what he did, he could never get past Raven. They would always tie it together. And now it's flipped with what archetype is the heel and what's the face. And you could tie it to that of Darby just never being able to get over the mountaintop on Sammy. And then for him, his first victory against Sammy could be for the belt when Sammy's champ. And that's how Darby, it would be such a poetic thing. That's been a feud that I've loved.
Awesome. And I have to say, like, from where I've been sitting throughout this whole episode, and I'm sure like there's going to be a few people who listen to this who are going to be in the same position, and purposely as well, I've kind of hidden behind the mic for this episode, like, because I feel more pumped up. I mean, obviously we had the AEW for Dummies episode, which pushed me back into AEW in the first place, but like just listening to you guys talk throughout this whole thing about the last year, obviously we could have covered like so much more stuff, but obviously we're within a time constraints. We're not a 6-hour podcast. Nobody's gonna fucking listen to that.
Yes.
Yet is the key word.
Yeah, we've got another 5 hours to go, guys. But like just listening to you guys like talking about it, and and just being like genuinely excited about the product and what you've seen, like honestly, like that is like rubbed off on me. So kind of
I apologize. I'll give you a towel.
Well, I did say it was gangbang, but like being able to take that step back, it's been really good for me, because like I'm even more excited to sit down and watch AEW Dynamite tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to watch Double or Nothing live, but at some point I will get around to doing it, maybe Sunday or Monday. So I'm genuinely excited now for AEW as a whole, and I thank you guys for kind of taking the reins with the show today and allow me to put my producer hat on and just sit here and enjoy it. It's been a blast, and I'm sure people listening to this as well are going to definitely agree with that. And going forward, now that I'm starting to get into AEW a bit more, I do want this podcast to kind of be split between WWE and AEW, and then hopefully when that's music to answer you. Hopefully when New Japan, but this is even more good music for you, and when New Japan kicks in, I really want to give that a go as well. And I know,
yes, please,
yes, please. And I know it's your favorite thing in the world of wrestling, so I will do that for you. I will board that train and ride it and see where we go with it. But I'm sure I'll enjoy it as much as everybody else seems to enjoy it. But that was the 1 year retrospective of AEW. I mean, I think we can all say it's been a successful year for that company, and it doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon. Of course, Double or Nothing has already happened to this point, so hopefully it was a good show. I'm sure it was. But it's time to end things where I can actually take charge of this show once again and put some pressure on Fowl as we go into the Captain's Cabin. Now, before we head into the Captain's Cabin, we do have a special little treat for you. It fits perfectly into our AEW themed episode. ANT is back again this week. Of course, he was here last week, but this time he's here in musical form. Here is his Double or Nothing track, and it is a jam.
Let's raise the stakes, change the pace. Everybody thinks they perfect, but we make mistakes. My only goal is becoming one of the all-time greats. And after all, this is a marathon, it's not a race, right? Coffin drop off the top of the stage. Darby Allin's a madman, he can't be caged. And as a matter of fact, I'm ready for that spot. Casino ladder match, who will hit the jackpot? Won't be surprised if it's Scorpio Sky. Double or Nothing where the stories collide. We taking over like Brody Lee in the Dark Order. You ain't a god, my friend, your arms are far shorter. This is the pay-per-view, it ain't the same thing. You not a threat now, cause you got a name change. You gotta prove your worth, just like we all did. We've been taking over the world since All In. Start the productions, double or nothing. Coming to you straight from Florida with no interruptions. We ain't trying to waste too much time on our introductions. Just get ready for some wrestling and utter destruction. Start the productions, double or nothing. Coming to you straight from Florida with no interruptions. We ain't trying to waste too much time on our introductions. Just get ready for some wrestling and utter destruction. For the record though, it's bound to be a spectacle. Was never skeptical, cause that's what I expected, yo. Elite versus the inner circle is going down. I'm looking forward to that Stampede showdown. No doubt, man, we in different modes now. It's kill or be killed and we ain't about to slow down. High stakes, the TNT title is up for takes. Cody versus the Murder Hawk with Jake the Snake. And when that dust clears, there won't be no debate. Just Tyson handing the title to Jake's protege. MJF probably losing in an upset. Nonetheless, Jungle Boys ready for some success. The Dark Order is full of steam, they taking off. The world title is up for grabs, they facing off. Watch me become the champion like Moxley. Hope he's not cocky, cause he'll get stopped, B. Start the productions, double or nothing. Coming to you straight from Florida with no interruptions. We ain't trying to waste too much time on our introductions. Just get ready for some wrestling and utter destruction. Start the productions, double or nothing. Coming to you straight from Florida with no interruptions. We ain't trying to waste too much time on our introductions. Just get ready for some wrestling and utter destruction.
A&T has hit another home run there with that Double or Nothing track. Go and check out his YouTube and Spotify and just go and search for A&T Won't Stop, all one word. And you can see all the other wrestling themes he's done, like they're all fantastic. And he's got his own personal stuff as well outside of the wrestling stuff. All fantastic music. So go and check that stuff out. He's our boy, A&T Won't Stop, and current leader on the Captain's Cabin Quiz League standings. But Fowl could take that spot right now, so let's head over to the Captain's Cabin and find out if he will. Welcome to another edition of the Captain's Cabin. Of course, we had our debut show last week with A&T, scoring I would actually say an impressive 10 points. He really smashed home the general knowledge round and kind of suffered a little bit in the WrestleMania specialty round, but going so broad is something that hit him hard, I think, Ant.
Oh, definitely. For those of you who haven't listened, and if you haven't listened, shame on you. But his specialty round, specialty topic that he picked was WrestleMania 9 through WrestleMania 36. So that's a lot of ground to cover. Yeah, so he basically general knowledged himself in 2 rounds. But with the general knowledge round in round 1, we don't make it easier, but we understand the broad nature of it. But when it comes to your specialty, we go for those hard-hitting aspects, and we did. And it's tough when you pick basically the entirety of WrestleMania as your specialty.
But fair play, he did well, and he's sitting there pretty on the top of the league standings right now.
I kind of think, but I guess I won't mention it again.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. It's not canon.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. He got 10 points in 90 seconds. I got 10 points in 60 seconds, and so, but I mean, whatever. Who's counting, I guess, other than me and everyone? But it's okay.
Since you last spent some time with the DOWPOD, the quiz has actually evolved a little bit. I briefly mentioned it on Twitter in passing, but everyone ignores me on Twitter, so you probably didn't see it. We've now changed the quiz into a seasonal league and playoff format. So everybody that we have currently lined up for the quiz right now, nobody else is going to be added to it. We have season 1 pretty much locked in with the competitors we've got lined up. And of course that will lead into playoffs and an ultimate champion and winner of that Dow Cup. That's what it's all about, winning the Dow Cup.
Very excited. Go ahead.
I know nothing about football, and I've been snuck into a football style competition, haven't I? This is what it sounds like.
A little bit. We've got these rounds, we're going to take all the competitors, and the top 8 point totals will make the playoff. and then we'll rank them by seed. So the number 1 seed will play the number 8, the 2 will play the 7, the 3 plays the 6, the 4 plays the 5, and then whoever gets the most points in your matchup with that person, you'll move on, face another, and there you go.
How long do you need until you have my seed? Like, how long have I got to give you my seed?
What?
What kind of seed are we talking about here?
What kind of seed are you guys talking about?
Like, you'll be like, if you like, so say like A&T from the last, because he's the first and the only as of right now. He's top of the leaderboard. He's number 1. He's that first seed. So if you get less than his 10, you're number 2, so you'd be the 2 seed. If you got more than his 10, you would replace him as the 1, and that's your seed.
So do I need to send it refrigerated, or like?
It has
basically...
to be. Is it genetically modified?
Nah, I made it myself.
Room temperature.
Yeah. As long as we run most things through proper carrier pigeon protocol. So as long as it's travel safe for the pigeons and the African swallows that we use to carry our packaging, I think that'll be fine.
Cool. I'm happy to swallow my seed to you then.
I appreciate it. Again, it's all about consistency.
Great.
Yeah, in the seed. This is taking a dark turn here. Good time.
It would have been the DOWPOD round. It would have been the DOWPOD round. We're on a Navy vessel right now. We like a bit of dirty talk on here. It's all good.
It's tough on the ship. It's tough.
It's a tough life. It is a tough life. Now, for those of you who didn't check in last week, just a brief overview of the concept of the quiz. We have 2 90-second rounds for Fowl to take on today. The first round is a general knowledge round, one he'll conduct with the first mate of the DOWPOD, Anthony. And that is literally just a general knowledge of wrestling as a whole, mainly focused around WWE because that is the mainstream option. But we do have other stuff thrown in there for good measure.
Yes, we do.
And then we have a specialty round in front of the Captain Dits, over in my cabin, and it is a specialty round. So Fowl has come with his specialty subject of TNA 2002 up to 2010, and we will quiz him on that. So let's. We spoke about this off air, but I'm already feeling nervous, even though it's not me taking on the quiz. So I feel that we need to get into this because I don't think I can take much more of this shaking shitty dog syndrome that I've got going on here. So,
so what do we drink? Is that what we do?
You're drinking for free, I think, at the moment.
Drink the seeds.
Yeah. I'm not drinking no seed. I swallow the seed. I'm swallowing the seed to you, not drinking it. That would be disgusting.
Just regurgitate it. Be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh dear.
It's taken a turn for the worse.
It has taken a turn for the worse. So let's get away. So let's get into the general knowledge round, Fowl. Are you ready to face the first mate?
Yes, I am.
Anthony, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I think so.
Put your 90-second timer on, and
I am currently prepping that timer right now.
It's a lot of French accentry right there. I like that.
Hey, I've got to do it for our French fans.
Top 5 in France. That's what we fucking are. Well,
Yeah,
at one
baby.
point.
Really?
But
Yo, en français.
Yep.
Oh, joute alors.
exactly. Him too.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, Judah Lore, Thierry Henry, all of them. Zidane, yeah, Hugo Lloris, all of them.
Viva la Pogba.
Viva la Pogba, yeah. United.
We'll let Fowl compose himself first, and then we'll get into the...
I'm all right. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Ish.
Right, so on my countdown, I will start the timer, and away we go. You got a nice little Pirates of the Caribbean timer going on here, so as soon as you hear that memorable little tune, which is coincidentally remixed for my theme song for this show, that'll be the end of your round, but we'll see how you get on. Are you ready?
Yes.
Anthony, are you ready?
I am ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Who was Brock Lesnar's tag team partner while wrestling in OVW?
Ron Waterman.
Following Undertaker's loss at WrestleMania 30, who now holds the longest WrestleMania undefeated streak?
Oh, really? Lesnar? It can't be. Shit. Sorry. No, that's wrong. Oh, damn it. Pass.
Who is credited with inventing the camel clutch?
Gory Guerrero.
Correct. Who had the most reigns as hardcore champion in WWE?
It's got Randy Orton.
The Shield faced Team Hell No and which other superstar in their first match together?
Pass.
Who represented Linda McMahon in the WrestleMania 2000 main event with a McMahon
Mick
in
Foley.
every corner?
Mick Foley.
Correct. Who did Charlotte Flair defeat to win her first main roster title?
Paige.
Who was the first person to become a multiple-time Ring of Honor World Champion?
Tyler Black.
What venue is regarded as WWE's spiritual home?
Madison Square Garden.
Correct. What was Sami Zayn's persona or character while wrestling on the
El
Independence?
Generico.
Correct. Who has wrestled the most WWE pay-per-view matches?
Oh, there's the timer, but you do have time to answer the
John
question.
Cena. John Cena. When in doubt, answer John Cena.
That's
Always.
that's a good thought. It's incorrect in this instance, but that's a good thought.
God damn it. God damn you. That's fine.
How many did you get, Dits?
Fowl, in the general knowledge round, you received 4 correct answers.
That Gory Guerrero one was fantastic. I was
Yeah,
not
bravo
expecting
for that.
him to
I
get
thought I
that.
threw a curveball in there.
Fantastic.
It's really weird. Like the only reason I know that is because I think I read in Eddie's Eddie's biography, not the biography, his life, cheating life. I'm sure I read it in there that a lot of people used to talk about it, and his grandfather invented it. It was Gory Guerrero. Yeah. So, and Gory invented it, and like apparently it was like some story. Someone was using the camel clutch, and they said, "Hey, you can't use that." And he was like, "Do you know my granddad did it?" So it's stuck in my brain.
It's a very nice one. So if we run through the questions that were asked there. So question 1 was, who was Brock Lesnar's tag team partner while wrestling in OVW? The answer was Shelton Benjamin.
Damn it.
You did not get that. Following the Undertaker. That's legitimately a common theme. You start getting like you have the pressure of the timer, and then like it's like your brain goes dead, and then you give an answer, and 2 seconds later you're like, crap, I know what the actual answer was. Question 2 was, following Undertaker's loss at WrestleMania 30, who now holds the longest WrestleMania undefeated streak? The answer is Rob Van Dam.
Oh my motherfucking god, my man Rob Van Dam, and I didn't get this right. Damn, he's gonna kill
4-0
me.
he is, just for an additional little bit of information.
4-0. Who is credited with inventing the camel clutch? You got this correct. That was Gory Guerrero. Next question was, who had the most reigns as hardcore champion in WWE? The answer was Raven. Fun fact. Next question, the Shield faced Team Hell No and which other superstar in their first match together? The answer was Ryback.
Oh.
Yeah, or the
Probably good I
Ryback.
didn't-
Is some
The
people like.
Ryback.
The
Good I
Ryback.
didn't know that.
Yeah, Ryback sucks. Who represented Linda McMahon in WrestleMania 2000's main event featuring a McMahon in every corner? You got this correct. The answer was Mick Foley. Who did Charlotte Flair defeat to win her first main roster title? The answer was Nikki Bella. Who was the first person to become a multiple-time Ring of Honor World Champion? The answer was Austin Aries. What venue is regarded as WWE's spiritual home? The answer is Madison Square Garden, which you got correct. What was Sami Zayn's persona while wrestling on the independent scene? The answer was El Generico. You got that one correct as well. And then the last question, who has wrestled the most WWE pay-per-view matches? John Cena, default answer. I would have also said that because I did not know this answer. The answer is Kane.
Wow.
175 matches.
That's a lot. Holy crap. I was hoping you would give us a specific answer.
And a close
Wow.
second, The Undertaker with 174.
Well, see, that makes sense. I would not have guessed Kane. Wow.
Wow. That
Right.
is like, damn. Wow. That's makes a lot of sense, really. I mean, what else could you do if you're Kane?
That's true.
Other than jump into politics?
I was going to say, other than run for mayor, I guess.
Mm.
but a very solid first round. 4 points.
Yeah, it was good.
Solid total. Ant Won't Stop is at the top of the leaderboard with 10 points, so you only need 6 from your specialty round to tie, 7 to take the lead. Solid first round, 4 points.
And I've just sent you the running order for the specialty questions. If you have received that, Anthony.
I have.
Good
I have.
stuff.
I has.
I have. Got it, Tiny
Right on.
Tim. You don't worry about it.
What about Tiny Tim, Mr. Scrooge?
So
Sorry.
you'll be running with the timer and the scoring on this one. Fowl, are you ready to face the captain in the captain's cabin?
I'm ready to cross the line.
Oh. Things are a little tenser in here, as we found out last week. There was a lot of additional thinking which didn't come in the general knowledge round for ANT.
Well, to his credit, I think because he got 9 in the general knowledge round, I think there was a lot of mental aspects that he went with into round 2, and he got that first question wrong, and it sent him down a spiraling path of darkness and pack.
You mean a park of dark? Yeah.
Yep, a pack of darkness is what I meant. A Neville of darkness is what I actually meant to say.
Dude, that's another That's another Neville. That is. That's Park.
Pikachu.
Pikachu.
Oh, Pikachu.
I actually meant Neville from Harry Potter, so that's where we're going with that one. Just kidding. Good times, references that we're all a fan of. Biker Grove. I'm ready whenever everyone is.
Yes! Yes! I'm getting Biker Grove over. I'm so happy about this.
If I ever take this quiz again, it's not going to be wrestling related. General knowledge, wrestling, fine. My specialty category will be Biker Grove. I am calling it now. That's going to be my thing. Going with it.
You will have a whole village in Scotland that will be applauding you the whole way. Like, let me just.
That's my demographic, so it fits. Are you gentlemen ready?
Oh yes.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, copy. I'm going to hit you with a 3, 2, 1, go. And when I say go, I am starting the timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds, 90 seconds for those at home who like to just work in seconds. 3, 2, 1, go.
What was the first TNA monthly pay-per-view called?
Pass.
What was the Steel Asylum match first known as?
Lockdown.
Kurt Angle ended Samoa Joe's undefeated streak at what pay-per-view?
Unbreakable.
America's Most Wanted broke up after a feud with what tag team?
Triple X.
AJ Styles defeated Low-Key, Psychosis, and who else to become the inaugural X Division champion?
Psychosis. And Jerry Lynn.
What year did TNA debut on Spike TV?
2005.
Who were the original members of Team Canada?
Bobby Roode, Eric Young, Scott D'Amore, Petey Williams. That's 4. And I can't remember the last one. Just pass on that one. The last bit of that answer.
Who has the most reigns as X Division champion?
Chris Sabin.
Name the original members of LAX.
Hernandez, Homicide, and Conan.
Ooh.
That is the timer. You want to get one more in? No? What do you think? No? It ended right as that question went through. What do you think, Dits?
Yeah, I gave the answer bang on the timer, I'm afraid.
Copy that. He's a stickler.
That's okay.
He is.
Just like TNA, we're out of time. That's fine.
Oh, yikes.
How did he do?
He got 3 questions correct.
Oh,
Ugh, it's painful.
So what was the first TNA monthly pay-per-view called? I don't remember what your answer was, but the correct answer is Victory Road.
I just said nothing. I couldn't think. For some reason, I thought it was whatever they did. They did New Year's Revolution before the WWE. They did something like that. I thought it was that, but no. All right. That makes sense, actually.
Second question, what was the Steel Asylum match first known as? The correct answer is the Terror Dome.
I see. That's fine. These are really hard.
Question 3. Yeah, the specialty round is no joke. I learned that with Bret Hart. I went way too broad. Kurt Angle ended Samoa Joe's undefeated streak at what pay-per-view? Your answer was Unbreakable. The correct answer was Genesis.
Damn it.
Good question. America's Most Wanted broke up after a feud with what tag team? You were very close. You said Triple X. It was actually LAX.
Oh shit! Yeah. I remember now.
Storm hits
I
Harris with
remember.
the bottle in the eye, and yep. And then
It's after Salinas. Salinas had joined LAX, hadn't she?
Correct.
So yeah, I remember now because that was when Jacqueline was with them. Actually, I watched that event the other day. You know, the blindfold match. It's not as bad as you remember.
It's not.
It's
You know, it's
worse.
actually it's bad, but they made up for it somewhat. Their hardcore match, like with each other, I forget what pay-per-view is so fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
Slingshot into the table in the ring that bust him open. Like they go at it through the crowd. There is spot after spot and story and emotion. They have a tremendous match with that. That is one of my favorite matches ever. But that blindfold match, terrible. This is where you started to make up some ground. AJ Styles defeated Low Key, Psychosis, and who else to become the inaugural X Division champion? Grammar and verbiage. The correct answer was Jerry Lynn, and that is the answer that you gave. So that's a point there.
Fucking A.
What year did TNA debut on Spike TV? Your answer was 2005, and the correct answer is 2005.
Yes.
Done. Next one. Who are the original members of Team Canada? So the original, very first version of Team Canada was was Scott D'Amore as manager, but Captain Teddy Hart, Jack Evans, Johnny Devine, and Petey Williams. As they went into the World Cup, they swapped out Teddy as captain for Petey Williams, and then they brought in Bobby Roode, Eric Young, and that's how that went through. But you were close.
Just like the Canadians, you got me on a goddamn technicality.
Okay.
But I don't even remember them being in Team Canada. I actually genuinely do not remember that World X Cup when they were there. I just remember, maybe that was just the way I remembered it though.
I knew Teddy Hart. I looked up because I came up with this question and I was like going through different things and I was looking it up and I saw this because I thought the original was D'Amore, Bobby Roode, Petey Williams, Eric Young, and Teddy Hart. And then I thought Teddy Hart got bounced for Petey Williams, and that's what I remember. And then, I saw and I went through it, and I was like, I do not remember Jack Evans in Team Canada. And then but it is a factual thing. I was very surprised as well. That's a hard question. But I also thought this next question was equally as hard. Who has the most reigns as X Division champion? Your answer was Chris Sabin, and the correct answer is, in fact, Chris Sabin. I forget that all the time. He had 8 X Division championship reigns. Fantastic for that man. Last question that the timer hit right as we finished. Name the original members of LAX. Homicide, Conan, and Hernandez were part of the second iteration. The original was Homicide, Conan, and Apollo.
I think it's a Hector Guerrero to me, and then I was going to be like, that's a third, fuckers. Like, screw you. Like,
Apollo, the original debut of LAX was in December of 2005, and then in March of 2006, Apollo got swapped out for Hernandez. That is also one that I loved LAX. I loved Homicide, and I loved him as a group. But I remember in looking up, this was also a question of mine. I remember looking it up, and I was like, no, I think there was someone before Hernandez, and I couldn't remember who it was, and I was like, oh, shit, it was Apollo. I don't remember that. But, yeah, the iteration that you named is the one that took off. So you got 3 points out of that round to add to your first round score of 4, so you finished with a score of 7 for this competition.
Ain't too bad. I guess I'm getting locked in the cabin's quarters then.
Well, you
I'll
beat
have to pay
Dits.
my way somewhere.
Dits only got 6 in his round.
I did.
Not to bring that out or talk shit.
Cheers,
but
thank you.
I just want to say though, like just like when you're getting a meal, you don't spit in like the captain's food, like you leave that shit alone. I want to be, I want to get back to like just to port, please. I'd like to get that to port alive. Like, if that's all right.
That's what's going to happen. I don't know what.
It's kind of 50-50 whether that's going to happen. No, usually what we would do is because we do have other questions that we prep just in case you smash through all of them. Usually I would read them, but I'm very aware of the time that this podcast is running at, so I'm going to send you those outside of the podcast just so you can see the other questions that you would have faced and just let us know how you get on with those. But 7 is not anything to be disappointed with, I don't think.
No, it's not. Again, that run that A&T had last week, that first round was unreal. He got 9 in the general knowledge, 1 in his specialty. That we thought he was going to get like 9 in both rounds. He just kept rattling off everything in that general knowledge to a degree that I was like, oh my God, like, did he have the answers ahead of time, or have we worked with some wrestling savant over here? So
maybe he has Bernard's watch, like, and he's just stopping time after every question. I tried that, but I couldn't find my watch. Like,
I have it around here somewhere. It's probably under the piano. Yeah,
True.
but that's a respectable score. And now, as of now, you sit in the 2 spot comfortably with that 7 score. Granted, there's only been 2 people that have competed, but still, you're in the top 8 right now, so bully for you.
You know what? Top 5, yeah, and there's only been 2 people. Elite club.
That's exactly what it is. You are literally being the elite right now.
I got there first. Second. I got there second. 2 comes right after 1. I've become the Buzz Aldrin of your whole quiz. This is fine. I like it.
I don't know why I thought you said Buzz Lightyear at first, and I was like, what? And then I was like, no, Buzz Aldrin the astronaut. Whoopsie.
Because I sound like a child.
Yeah, I was thinking it was more because you're wearing a Buzz Lightyear outfit right now.
I mean, you don't need to tell everyone that. Jesus Christ! Like,
all right, I just want
they're all gonna want. They're all gonna want one, and I've only got 3 to send out. You will get yours in the mail soon with your seed.
I've only got 17 that I've hand stitched. 7. Well done. Well played.
Cool.
So, Fowl,
thank you.
it has been a pleasure having you on for both sections of the show this week, and seeing as it was a long time in the making, it hasn't disappointed.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me have my sea legs.
Seed legs.
At least you don't get seasick on here. You just get sick.
Seed sick.
Just sick in general.
Just sick overall.
Sick of the bullshit.
Yeah. Now, in all seriousness, now, like, we've been trying to hook this up for like a year, and I'm really, really happy that we got it done, especially at this time when I'm kind of like whole happy and stuff. Like, I'm really excited. Thank you so much. Like, obviously, Dits has been doing this now for a year, like, and it's awesome. Like, I can remember last year when you were just a Twitter account. Like, and now you're doing a podcast, and it's awesome, mate. Like, it's really cool. And you're keeping him in check. That's good. It's good. I like it. No, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
No, the pleasure was all ours. And you know, I say this to all the guests that we enjoy having on. I'm trying to think now if we ever have had a dud. I don't think we have. And if we did, we'd probably be honest and open about it because we're dicks.
Get ready to not release this episode.
This one is going in the archives.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. We're not releasing this. It was terrible, but you're a good person. Goodbye.
Cool, thanks.
But no,
cool,
you do have an open invitation to come back, and I'd love you to come back. I'm sure Ant would echo that sentiment. So it's been a pleasure. But before we do let you go, Fowl, plug the hell out of your stuff because I know you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, I got loads of shit. So, hello everyone, I'm Fowl Original. You can get me, I'm looking at myself where to start this again. Hello everyone, I'm Fowl Original. You can get me on Twitter at Fowl_original. You can also find me on Linktree, link.tree/Fowl Original. I'm on Patreon as well, which is on my Linktree. The Patreon at the moment, in future, we'll be getting episodes about how to build a brand and also some technical stuff that I do that's all for free, but I also do video edits there. But the main thing I do is on YouTube watch-alongs. So come and join on Wednesday night while me and about 15 other people in the world decide to make a watch-along happen on the internet. And you can find that at youtube.com/FowlOriginalWrestling every Wednesday for Dynamite. We start 15 minutes beforehand and we go live and I drink and you can pay me to drink. And I also do that for all the big WWE shows. And then I've got a podcast as well. Like, what I would suggest to everyone is I've got a lot of stuff going on. So if you want to find out, come to our Linktree or go to FowlOriginal.com. All the things.
Booyah. And do, because Fowl's a good guy. If you haven't really understood that by listening to this episode,
You're listening wrong.
then you're listening wrong. No, he's a good dude. He's got very, very good content. He's a guy who knows his shit when it comes to this kind of stuff. So if you're not following him, then I suggest you never, ever grace your presence with this show ever. Do not do that. Go follow Fowl and watch his stuff now.
Go
Well, not
follow
now. You're still listening to this, but after this, go and listen. Now,
Well, they could multitask. They
but you
do it
could.
now.
That's true. Yeah, you could. So, well, your video mostly. So you can have
Yeah.
the audio for this and your video up, so that works.
In theory, what you could do if you really wanted to, like support both of us, you could listen to me and listen to Dits and Ant, and then you could just have the video of me with no sound. Yeah, and then maybe we sync up. I don't know. Maybe we sync up. You try.
That's what I was
I'll
going to
try it.
say. It's a little bit of a Pink Floyd Wizard of Oz scenario that if you sync up an episode of ours along with one of Fowl's watch-along episodes, if you sync them up at the right moment, they perfectly sync and make sense and follow along with each other. But we're not going to tell you which episodes those are.
But to be fair, I've told Ant not to call me Floyd before I'm not Pink, but echoed.
I really hope somebody goes away now and fucking scrolls through all of your stuff and listens to this and go, I wonder what links up here. Like, I've tried everything.
Some fucking point it is. Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah. Take any of my episodes and sync it up to the Sesame Street theme tune. It'll probably fit.
Right, and plug your stuff, buddy.
Sorry, I'm not ready. I'm ready. Hold on. I need an adult. I'm Anthony. I am the co-host of this wrestling podcast with Dits. I also have my own solo podcast focusing on Buffalo sports, mainly the Buffalo Bills of the NFL and the Buffalo Sabres of the NHL. That podcast is titled Wagons and Warpaths. Find me on Twitter at wagons_warpaths. You can find the episode link tree in my Twitter bio that has the links to all the platforms that my pod streams on, including Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. Reach out to me in email, wagonsandwarpaths@gmail.com, and I'm also a featured writer for lastwordonprofootball.com, covering the Buffalo Bills and other trending topics in the NFL on a weekly basis, sometimes less, sometimes more, but that regularly. And yeah, I'm going to go find that episode of Sesame Street to sync up with Fowl.
Won't take you long.
Episode 3733.
Fuck. That was, I heard that. Fuck.
On the Dits front, you can follow me on Twitter at Dits on Wrestling, and that's pretty much it for the socials because I fucking hate Facebook and I don't understand Instagram. Or you can find me on YouTube over at Dits on YouTube, where I morph wrestling with gaming. I'm still trying to build that thing up, but you can find every episode of the DOWPOD on my YouTube channel, where it seems to get more views than it used to do, which is great. Rather than like across the podcasting apps, which is bizarre. YouTube seems to be the new podcasting listening type station.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird one, that. And of course, you are largely listening to this podcast in some way, shape, or form, so I'm not going to reel off all the places that we're available. We are available pretty much everywhere that you can get a podcast. Now, coming up next week on the show, we are welcoming Mike from Retromania, the genius behind that upcoming wrestling video game, which is due out in July. So we're going to break down everything that's going on with the game, how that's shaping up, and probably just talk about wrestling games in general, because me and Ant are both fans of the wrestling video game. So that's going to be a really good chat. And he's also taking on the Captain's Cabin next week as well. So it's going to be doubly fun. But it's been a really good episode this week. Again, thank you so much, Fowl, for coming along. It's been a blast. But until next week, have a good week. Enjoy Double or Nothing. Of course, it's already happened, so you have probably enjoyed Double or Nothing. But if you're still waiting on it to watch it like I am, I hope you enjoy it. But until then, see you next week. Have a good week.